Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
Good evening, I'm Marcella Milder.
And I'm Kat Galliano, and welcome to The Local Live.
We're here to bring you the latest news in the Larchmont Mamaroneck communities.
Let's take a look at what's coming up on tonight's show.
Should we control our emotions and romance in order to have a healthy relationship? Licensed marriage and family therapist Toria Leto will talk about this and more in our live roundtable discussion.
Are the best breeds, puppies, and kittens in danger? Stay tuned to find out the full story.
What are the highlights of the latest Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees? More coming up.
The annual Family Fun Night was in full swing at Harbor Island Park this past weekend. Stay tuned.
Why does the East Avenue Cafe in Larchmont feel like home?
Wonder what's trending in the world this week? The Local Live's news segment will fill you in on what's gone viral.
And let's help find Dandelion a forever home. Last Sunday, August 9th, there was a protest in front of Best Breed Puppies and Kittens, the pet store located on 154 Mamaroneck Avenue. The purpose of the protest, called Voice for the Voiceless, was to support the effort to shut down the business. Protesters are angry with pet store owner Rick Doyle, who has been charged for alleged animal cruelty selling diseased pets. According to Fox Connecticut, the State Department of Agriculture revealed that there has been at least 22 complaints against Doyle's Danbury pet store, American Breeders, since 2007. The protesters took their concerns to the latest Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees meeting to make the community aware of the animal cruelty taking place on the avenue. We'll keep following up on this story as it develops. On Monday, August 10th, at the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees meeting, Senator George Latimer and New York Assemblyman Steve Otis informed the community about updates on two new laws that will benefit the village. So let's take a listen.
First of all, we had good fortune in getting two bills through that were both identified as being helpful to the village and that your board was unanimously in favor of. The first one is to authorize the village to impose up to a 3% bed tax or hotel occupancy tax in the Village of Mamaroneck. And so,
Assistant Village Manager Daniel Sarnoff said to review that $25,000 a year in revenue will result from implementing the hotel tax. For full coverage of the meeting, you can visit LMC-TV.org and search videos. And according to the Mamaroneck Review article by Jackson Chen on August 7th, Republican candidates Mayor Rosenblum and Deputy Mayor Santoro will no longer appear on the independent party ballot line due to an insufficient amount of signatures. Democratic District Leader Stuart Tickerts challenged the validity of 22 of the signatures, leaving the two candidates 4 signatures short of qualification for running on the independent line, said the Mamaroneck Review. Following up on this story, the same topic was brought up at the August 10th Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees meeting by Andres Bermudez-Hellstrom.
To the people of Mamaroneck, I encourage you to get involved. Nothing scares the crap out of a tyrant or autocrat more than an involved populace. Autocrats like Tiekert can't take away your sacred rights if you're constantly watching him, and if you're willing to stand up for your rights. Fellow citizens, heed the words of Goffredo Mameli. Let us join in a cohort. Let's join together, let's work together to ensure that people like Tiekert, Natchez, and Burt are scared from ever trying to deprive us of our self-evident rights ever again. Thank you.
Leon, question.
In order to get on the ballot, one is required to get a minimum number of signatures.
Yes.
Are the ineligible signatures thrown off only if it's by fraud or if they're just ineligible because the person signing it doesn't live in the municipality where the candidate will run or is not a member of that a registered member of that party? So I don't understand why you refer to fraud. If the petition signature gatherers do a terrible job and collect signatures from people outside the municipality or who are not registered for the said party, why is there anything wrong with that? Do you want someone on the ballot who has not met the legal requirements to be on the ballot? Is that what our veterans fought for, to allow anyone to collect signatures that are valid or invalid in order to get on the ballot?
No, our veterans vote.
I would think you would think that Mr. Tiekert was in fact doing us a service to make sure that people who got on the ballot deserve to be on the ballot.
Mayor Norman Rosenblum and Trustee Lou Santoro will continue to run for the Republican Party line. To watch the full meeting, go to www.lmctv.org. Now let's turn to Sarah Marsh to see what interesting stories are running in the local media this week.
The Mamaroneck Daily Voice reports that recently, healthy eating is playing a bigger part in the lives of Westchester residents, and locals are becoming more and more proactive about lifestyle changes directed at health improvement. Recently, the enthusiasm level has grown for learning about and seeking out healthy choices. Local farmers markets, a larger variety of healthy foods from different cultures, and chefs that focus on cooking well are just a few of the contributors to an increasing desire to eat well. Pat Talio, an outpatient nutrition coordinator at Northern Westchester Hospital in Mount Kisco, has a number of key tips for those trying to better their health eating habits. Plan your meals, be cognizant of food labels, and keep a food journal, just to name a few. For the full article and more healthy eating tips, visit the Mamaroneck Daily Voice. Happy birthday, Larchmont! This coming September marks the village's 125th birthday. To celebrate, the Oarsman Gallery will be hosting an exhibit where historical pictures of Larchmont will be on display. The exhibit, called Larchmont, The Way We Were, will feature photographs from the local library as well as the Larchmont Historical Society. The exhibit will run all through September. I know I'll be there. To find out more, visit the Patch. Recently, Mamaroneck's own Florence Park tennis courts were the set of the upcoming TV show Red Oaks. Set in New Jersey, the Amazon series, produced by Steven Soderbergh, tells the comedic story of a college student who gets a job at a predominantly Jewish country club. Scenes were also filmed at Harrison's Willow Ridge Country Club. To watch the pilot and learn more about the show, visit LOHUD. The Southern Westchester Music Festival, which will take place on September 19th at Harbor Island Park, recently revealed that it will feature 15 national bands, as is reported in the Mamaroneck Daily Voice. Among these names are Felix Cavalier's Rascals, Mark Cohen, David Johansen, and Sean Mullins. The festival will also feature food trucks, wine, beer, kids' activities, and much more. For tickets and more information, visit www.sowemusicfestival.com. And those were the stories trending in the media this week. I'm Sarah Marsh. See you next week. Are you too emotional when it comes to your romantic endeavors? Coming up on our roundtable discussion, Tori Aletto helps us find your middle ground. But first, let's take a look at this week's trivia question.
Good evening. How do you manage emotional well-being and keep a balanced relationship? Well, today we have Tori Aletto. She's a licensed family marriage and she's a licensed family, you know, I'm reading from a teleprompter and it's going a little too fast. Anyway, she's here with us. You're a licensed family and marriage counselor.
Yes.
You have a business in Mamaroneck and it is called Emotion Psychotherapy.
Yes.
And I am here with Maura Carlin, as you can see. And Maura is going to keep track of your questions and comments. And
so you can email, call, or tweet to the numbers on your screen.
Okay. So now let's see, Tori. There you are.
Here I am.
So we've billed this little discussion as managing emotional triggers while keeping a balanced relationship. We've also called it how to handle emotions in romance. Is there a better way to put this? Are we just talking about romance, or are we talking about all kinds of relationships?
I think that our most intimate relationships are what trigger us the most. I would say it's not necessarily the emotions. I think it's the reactive energy between two people or even between family members. But I think your romantic relationships bring it out the most, and your family too, I would say.
What does it bring out? The difference between how men and women deal with emotions?
Well, there is a difference in there, but I think it brings out certain triggers, certain reactive triggers. So I'll give you, for instance, so most people under stress, if you're anxious or you're feeling like, you know, triggered in some way, you either do one of two things. It kind of goes back to like the old psychology, fight or flight kind of stuff, but either you become a pursuer and you're aggressive and you want to talk and you want to, you know, sometimes yell, scream, nag, whatever that kind of category goes under.
And you're talking about the female.
Not necessarily.
You know, it's really not. I would say that I kind of thought it the same because I'm certainly in that realm, but it's actually not. It goes both ways. But then the other side of it is more of like a distancer type role, which is someone who kind of withdraws, who will walk away, who has trouble communicating.
You mean the silent treatment?
Yeah.
Is that a person who has trouble dealing with emotion?
I would say when they're triggered, yes. Okay. So if something triggers them and their whole system is off, they have a very hard time connecting to what they're feeling and then kind of talking to their partner in those moments.
But sometimes isn't that a strategy? I know that I'm too angry right now and I will say something that I will regret.
Yes.
So let me wait until I'm calmer.
Yes, that is a strategy. The difference between a strategy and kind of where it lends itself into a problem is when you don't come back to have that conversation. And that is just your tactic of getting out of communication. So yeah.
All right, so how do we keep a balanced relationship there?
So I think you want to know your style. And the thing is, it's not that we all have one or the other, because there can be people who are aggressive with certain topics and not others, in certain situations and not others. So It really depends. So you just really want to get to know yourself. And the biggest thing, which is also kind of the hardest thing, is that when you're triggered and you're reactive, it is the worst time to have a healthy talk about whatever it is that the content is. So you get very stuck in the reactive mode, so the fighting or the back and forth, and you're actually really not hitting the content or the point of the conversation because you're so triggered. So really what you want to do is you want to get to know your own style, and you want to, kind of similar to what you said, you want to be able to self-soothe so that in times where you're not in reactive mode, you can communicate about things effectively.
Is this why couples tend to have the same fights over and over again?
Yes. Yes. If a couple comes to see me, the first thing I'll say is we don't go into content. I don't want to hear what she did yesterday or you did. I want to know what your pattern is, because that's the work. The work isn't about what they did yesterday. It's how do you guys communicate? What happens and what is your pattern? And they'll very easily go through, well, she says this, and then I'll usually do this, and then this is how it ends.
Okay, but what if the issue, and this may seem benign to some, is always over X doesn't put the dishes in the dishwasher, and so every night there is the exact same fight. And
yes.
How do you break that?
How do you resolve that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask you, how do you resolve that?
I would resolve it with paper plates. You just throw in the garbage.
Okay, so there goes the environment for the couple. Alternatively, I mean, another way to look at it is if X isn't doing it, perhaps X likes the nagging because X knows that the nagging is what's going to occur.
Well, that's interesting because I think that what happens is when the communication becomes reactive, that is true. You get out of the point of the conversation. So if it becomes, you never take out the garbage and, oh, you're nagging, and you just become a fight, you don't deal with the garbage problem, which is someone's not taking it out or there's not a shared responsibility. So that's the challenge. So it's really how do you have those conversations, not in the mode where you see that garbage and you're just like angry. How do you set up? How do you become more proactive in dividing chores, or if sometimes those things too can be something else. So if you're feeling
like what? How?
Just if you're feeling not appreciated, or if you're not feeling the workload is equal, or sometimes if you just feel sometimes those things are used as ways to communicate other things. So there's always usually something else happening. So I think you just want to be able to have those conversations separate from when you're immediately triggered.
And this conversation could also happen between you and your son, or you and your daughter about taking out garbage, or you and your mom, let's say. Just kidding. I would never have my mother take out the garbage.
No, that's true. I do a lot of this work with parent and teens. Absolutely. So it is actually quite similar.
Well, I was just reading some articles that our wonderful researcher, Catherine, prepared for us, and there was one about millennials or baby boomers actually taking care of their parents now, becoming caregivers. And so there's interesting relationships going on between, men and their mothers, and men and their fathers, and women and their fathers and mothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But garbage, no.
And is it creating new levels or areas of conflict?
Just the new role,
yes.
The shift of role. I'm not sure. I don't hear a lot of. I mean, I guess when I think about it, there is definitely a role that way, but it's not something I'm too familiar with or work too often with.
But let's take it when you're taking over. The baby boomers are taking over those roles with their parents.
Right.
How does that affect your romantic relationship?
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, I think it does.
Yes.
Because there's another burden on someone who may be already feeling overburdened.
Absolutely.
What should the unburdened spouse do to support the other?
I think you want to just be empathetic to their situation and what they need to do and what their new role is. But how do you define or really redefine how do you connect and maintain that relationship despite the new role or the new undertaking? But that is certainly a difficult task. There's a lot of boundaries, and there's a lot of,
a lot of boundaries.
A lot of boundaries that need to be set up to make that work successfully.
We actually have some specific questions here.
Oh, okay.
So what does one say to their partner when their partner has separation anxiety? For example, if your partner gets upset when he or she wants to hang out with friends or other people and you don't want that, how do you deal with that?
How do you deal with that as the partner
who's upset? Or actually, how does
Both?
each one deal with it?
I think you want to deal with those issues together, because what relationships will do, they'll highlight the areas that you sort of need growth in. So let's say someone's struggling with separation anxiety. You want your partner, the person who's leaving, let's say, to say, how can I make you feel safe? How can I help to make you feel safe? Can I check in? What will help? But it's really that person's also role to self-soothe their own anxiety and their own stress.
Now, what if this goes back to, you know, an issue as a child where they felt their parents were never around?
Yeah.
At what point do you either self-soothe or just realize that you've got to move on? Is there a way to?
Yes, I think awareness is always key as to where this stuff comes from, and a lot of times it does come from childhood situations, even not necessarily family, but just situations, first relationships, a lot of stuff that builds up over time. So I think awareness is always key, but there's no shut-off really. If it's super triggering, you have to work through it.
How often are people in a current relationship reacting to things that happened in prior relationships?
I'd say it happens a lot. Well, there's a theory. It's called Imago, and it's a theory.
I'm sorry, what's that called?
Imago.
IMAGO?
Yes. It's a theory where we seek out partners that purposely trigger us. Or if I say purposely trigger childhood wounds, really. And the goal, the subconscious goal, is so that we can heal them because they're bringing them up front. So in context to that, will you repeat the question? Because I'm trying to see how I circled back to that.
Imago.
Yes.
Oh.
Your question, so I can get...
You were
Basic or current.
when you're with someone who brings up, you know, things that have happened in your past are affecting you.
Right. So it's not necessarily like the content that they're bringing up, but it's the same feeling. So if they felt alone, or if they feel unappreciative, or they feel controlled, whatever the situation is, a lot of the times it's the same feeling that's evoked from the past, and that's what you have to work through. So it's not necessarily the situation.
We have another question. From, she calls herself passive-aggressive girl. My style is not being, dramatic, is not drama, but I'm furious, and the anger is eating at me, and I can't control it. So can you help me? He is avoiding me, so I can't have closure, but should I be seeking the closure, or should I just move on and deal with it on my own?
It's a good question. I think it depends on the topic. I think if it's something reoccurring, like
I think what she's referring to is a breakup. Okay, somebody has broken up with them, and you didn't really get the chance to have she didn't get the chance to have closure, and should she, he's not responding, should she go after him so she can smack him or across the face, or whatever, or yell at him or whatever, or should she just write him off and move along?
Yeah, I think you have to process those feelings on your own. I think closure is always ideal in a sense, but a lot of times people don't get it or don't get the closure they want. So at the end of the day, that becomes your own work to go through. I wouldn't say it's a write-off. I'd say it's a process. How do you manage something without that ending? Because it really doesn't make it any less painful if you think about it, but we think it does. So that's why we crave it.
Right.
But in the end, it's really just, it's like a grieving process. You have to let yourself grieve.
So you don't really think that kind of closure is actually necessary?
I mean, it certainly depends on the length of the relationship and how it ended and all these, different kind of situations. But if someone is refusing to give it to you, then I think you have to back away and manage that on your own.
Okay, now this is becoming somewhat more of a issue and a public issue, as I think I was reading about some celebrities, like someone broke off an engagement and just stopped returning his messages. I assume you don't support that way of dealing with things, but she has moved on without closure.
Yeah, no, I'd say if you're going to end a relationship, you would have to go through, I mean, it would be nice, ideal to go through a process with your partner, but that just doesn't always happen. That's certainly not ideal.
Okay, I know this isn't really the topic, but after how long do you owe someone a breakup in person as opposed to a text?
I think, I'd say if it's not even the time, it's the emotional connection, that you have with someone, because you could feel really connected to someone in a month.
But it's not necessarily mutual?
It's not always mutual. That's a great point. I don't know. There's probably not a clear answer to that.
Okay, but don't use a Post-it, according to Sex and the City.
No Post-its. Texts are probably the new Post-it, though.
I have a question. In a relationship,
Yeah.
you mentioned briefly about modeling something that may have occurred in childhood.
Yes.
What about the portrayal of relationships that you see in the media, on television and film? Do you feel that what's portrayed on the screen is healthy these days, or is it confrontational that you see? Characters in films, let's say?
Yeah, I think it's becoming a little bit more realistic. I think certain films are relatable. But I think people do have a very fairy tale ideal of what a relationship should be based on a lot of maybe old films, Disney films, who knows?
Well, I keep thinking about the line, I think it was Jerry Maguire, "You complete me."
Yeah.
You want to tell us what you think of that for a basis for a relationship?
Yeah, maybe we could all kind of relate to the feeling, but it's not the ideal, way to build a relationship necessarily, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot of ideals that people have to break through in order to have a real relationship, or a relationship after the infatuation stage, because that stage might make that person feel that way.
Another question?
We have a number of other questions.
do.
How should you handle clinginess? Either, of your partner. Your partner is clinging on you.
I think
Clinging
that
to you, excuse my grammar.
clinging to you. I think that calls for boundaries. It calls for conversation. When someone's clingy, they want to feel more safe and secure, so they want to, be right next to you, like a kind of like a toddler and a mother. But at the end of the day, your two partners, you can't have that type of relationship unless it's something that you're looking for. Most people aren't. So I think that you have to really set up boundaries and communication and check in with each other and see how you're feeling in terms of the space between each other and the all those kind of things. So I think it's a lot of work on both ends.
You're talking about a lot of negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a lot of negotiation. You know what it is too? It's a lot of it's looking at the self, because the number one thing that people, when they come in as a couple, is they want to tell me exactly what the other person's doing wrong, which I totally relate to. So that's not far off. I get it. But you really have to start looking at yourself and what's happening and what you're contributing to the cycles, the communication, all that stuff, because that's where you actually can make changes and grow.
Well, what if someone cheats? Is that a symptom or a cause of problems?
They tend, it really, I have to say, the whole cheating stuff is widely talked about differently now. They say that you can have a healthy relationship and someone could stray. This is a whole other separate kind of part now that's more new. But I tend to think it can be a symptom a lot of the times, but not always, I have to say that.
Okay. And what is cheating? It becomes more difficult in this day and age. So
Yes.
people really do want to know, what do you consider cheating?
I always think if you're hiding something, there's probably something that, there's a reason. It could be emotional, it could be a friendship, it could be something, but if there's the person who's doing it, if you feel the need to keep it a secret, there's something that you have to pay attention to.
That's an interesting standard.
Yeah.
Because it's not tied to any particular
No.
action or measuring how far you went, or anything like that. It's kind of your motivation.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good
I
way to
have a
put
question
it.
that kind of gets back to the basics that we were talking about when we first started, about some of the differences between how men and women handle emotion.
Yes.
And is it true that men are not as articulate about their emotions, or not as in touch with their emotions as women?
I mean, I would if I had to give a percentage, I would say 60% of men struggle with this. But I will tell you this: I find, at least with the couples that I work with, there's always one person in the couple that struggles with that. So it's not always the male; it can be the female as well. So yeah, there's always a partner who has a harder time understanding what they're feeling and then communicating and kind of speaking about it with the partner.
So there's two issues there. There's understanding what you're feeling.
Yes.
And also being able to articulate it to your partner.
Yep, two parts.
And I think from some of our research, we saw that, and I've heard it before, that women use twice as many words in a day as men.
I can see that.
And how does that affect the communication?
Right here we see it, yes.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
How does that affect communication? And do you want to work on our relationship?
That's another show.
Yeah, that's another show. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I know that women multitask much more, which also, too, can go from one topic to the next, you know, kind of that way. But it's certainly, you know, there's a lot of differences in the male and female brain, which make communication much more difficult.
Well, I have an email here,
Okay.
and this one's from Cool Girl. Nobody wants to use their real names tonight. I'm sort of dating a guy who's always on his phone, and I find that very disrespectful. However, I'm not really his girlfriend. Do I have the right to go crazy on him? I read somewhere that guys do this on purpose to try out the girl and see, you know, if she's willing to tolerate it. And I'm right now just pretending I don't care because I don't feel threatened by any other woman, but I think I should call him on it. What do you think?
Interesting. Well, I think this whole Google dating advice sometimes can make us all go a little nuts. But I'll say, if you're in the dating phase, and this is some, you know, I think the dating phase of stuff should be, is this working for me? Not how can I change that person? Because if you start that, you're on a long road right there. So, you know, people test each other, of course, but I don't know if you're already in that place. It's something
is
to
there
pay
a lot
attention.
of that where there's sort of a game plan? Well, I'm going to test this person from dates 1 to 3, and dates 4 to 6, I'll bring out the charm, and then I'll go back to I mean, is there something like that?
I don't know. I mean, there's definitely, I think, a game plan in some respect for people. I've never heard of using the phone as a testing, you know, thing. I've never heard of that, but I guess it could be a thing. But yeah, I think there's like the whole, when do you call, what do you do? You know, those kind of things, there's always questions and people.
So go ahead and answer them.
When do you, yeah, you know, it's really hard. I think you have to be aware of of the person you're talking to. And I almost say, I'll think about it like this. You want to feel out the kind of energy that's happening. So if you're communicating together and this is in a good place, then you can reach out, they can reach out, and you're in a good place. But if you're feeling like a pullback or you're not feeling secure, I would say just pay attention. I almost want to say it's more like vibes, but that's just maybe how I look at it.
But is that a vibe you're necessarily getting from the other person, or is that you?
It could be both. It could be both. It could also be what this person's bringing out in you. You know, it's tricky.
And I guess one of the complications is when you're in that dating stage, you're not going into couples counseling.
Right.
So you have to deal with it on your own. So what would you tell someone who came to you on their own and said, I'm having this problem because I'm dating someone and this is how I feel? You know, and they explain to you, do you tell them to throw them out? Or
how they feel in terms of what?
You know, I don't feel secure, or I feel like I'm being tested, or any one of those things.
Yeah. I think it becomes self-work in that process, because people will feel that. You know, you're on a date and you're insecure, you're not sure about yourself, whether or not the other person knows what they're picking up, they're going to sense that. So I think you have to work a lot on the self before you can be pretty successful at dating.
Well, what would you tell someone, would you say to someone, if they're dating someone and it doesn't make them feel good, it makes them unhappy, that they shouldn't be dating that person anymore?
I would never tell anybody what to do, but I would say,
okay, you will when you have children.
Yes, that's probably true. That is probably true. I would say if it doesn't make you feel good, why are you staying? I would help them come to that conclusion, assuming that, you know, why are they staying and something like that.
We have about a minute left, but I wanted to give you a chance to talk about the center that you operate.
Yes.
It's called the Live and Emotion.
Yes, so
Psychotherapy?
so it's a Live Yoga Studio. It's a wellness center in Mamaroneck. And we do a lot of different healing things. So we have yoga, we have meditation, and we also do therapeutic workshops. So it's a little bit less intense. So if you have like an issue or you have anxiety, it's a little bit less of an intensive way of working on things. You go to a group or you do meditation. So we have that. And then emotion psychotherapy is my practice that's associated with it. So,
And your practice is, well, most people know where the Fred Astaire dance studio is on Boston Post Road.
Yep.
You're right above it.
I'm right. I'm to the building to the right and above it.
Okay.
Yep.
That's probably great couples counseling. Go take a dance lesson together.
You go.
I hear that I was friends with a dance teacher who says they learn a lot about communication.
Who
Right?
leads? Well, I want to thank you very much for coming down. This
Thank
is your,
you.
I think, your second visit to the
Yes.
Local Live.
Yeah.
And let me extend another invitation for you to come back, and you
Thank
could
you.
talk about our relationship
Perfect.
and answer questions. And we want to thank everybody who called in and emailed in their
Right.
questions. And so, Tori Aletto, thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be back in a moment with more community stories and the answer to the trivia question.
You're watching The Local Live.
The only news show on Larchmont and Mamaroneck on LMC-TV.
The Village of Mamaroneck Parks and Recreation annual Family Fun Night filled with live music, campfires, and watercraft rentals. Ashley Balone reports.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Balone, and today we're here at Mamaroneck's annual Family Fun Night event, where the community is coming out to Harbor Island Park to enjoy this beautiful summer night. Over the weekend, families and friends came out to enjoy the beach, live music, and some activities.
Village of Mamaroneck is always the place to be. It's rated as #1 for several years by many places, #1 in New York State. And I can tell you, just looking around, seeing the family, and that's what the village is about, a family.
Since you've been here over the past years, how have you seen this event and this community come together and evolve?
We're really putting families first. We're trying to keep it a family-friendly beach. You know, the gates are all locked. Kids can play freely. We try to bring out different kinds of activities. You know, our 6-week camp just came to an end. And there was such a buzz, and the families kept coming back at night. So we're going to be here for as long as they want to come out.
With the weather being beautiful, members of the Mamaroneck community were able to fully enjoy the event with kayaking, roasting marshmallows, and playing beach sports. What more could you ask for?
I enjoy it. I enjoy every minute. You know, the kids enjoy it, the program. Everything they do here is such a good thing for the kids, for the family.
It's been another great, successful event here. With the Local Live, I'm Ashley Balone, signing off.
Did you know that right in the heart of Larchmont is a place where you can not only grab a bite, but also stroll down memory lane with all your favorite childhood candies? Here's the East Avenue Cafe for this week's In the Spotlight.
We're here at East Avenue, one of Larchmont's longest open cafes. Whether it's a salad, a sandwich, or just some candy, East Avenue has got it all. Let's go inside to check it out. Owner of East Avenue Cafe and longtime resident of Larchmont, Gail Shari has been a friendly face in our community for 19 years.
We started out as a bakery, cafe, and then we sort of emerged into more of a breakfast, lunch, coffee, snack place.
Breakfast all day long, cold and hot sandwiches, drinks, sweets, and more makes East Avenue Cafe the favorite hangout spot for Larchmont residents, whose pictures are featured on East Avenue's selfie wall.
Well, the selfie wall started because I asked the kids to send me pictures. They sent them to me in the store to my phone, and then I go and I sit and I make copies of them and I put them up. We also have an overflow book for all the extra money. Even the mailman's up there, the FedEx guy's up there. We have some officers from town up there. They like being involved, and it makes them feel, you know, East Avenue's always been a place where everybody can just come and hang out. You don't have to sit and spend a lot of money to hang out here because we like the company and we like the kids. They're a lot of fun.
East Ave keeps itself alive in the memory of many Larchmont residents who come to the cafe to be treated not just as customers, but as family.
We've seen the town grow up. We've seen a lot of our kids start out. One in particular, one guy was 2, and now he's in his 2nd or 3rd year of college. I don't even know which one it is, but you know, you watch people grow up and it's nice. It's really nice. they are what make everything in Larchmont thrive. I mean, they walk around, they come in, we know all their kids, we know kids that are already graduated, we see them as they get married and when they come back and they have their own kids, and it's really nice. We've lived through a lot of generations of people, and it's great that they're still, they're very supportive.
So come on down to East Avenue for food, candy, and fun. For the Local Live, I'm Sarah Marsh.
Now it's time to introduce you to our new segment, The Grid, with our own Christian Sokole. Let's check it out.
Hello everybody and welcome to The Grid, where we take a look at what's popular online this week. I'm your host, Christian Sokole. Did you see the Republican debate? No? Well, Google can help you out with their recap of all the candidates, including a lot of cool statistics, such as a rundown of popularity by candidate during the debate. I mean, just look at Trump. He's like the Katy Perry of politics. You can also see the latest news articles, major questions, and breakdowns by state. So Google, you did pretty good. In this week's video showcase, we have Jon Stewart's last rant on The Daily Show. After 16 years of hosting, Jon is closing off with this speech about bullshitocracy.
Bullshit is everywhere. Are the kids still in here? We'll deal with that later.
I highly encourage that you watch the full clip. The last Daily Show episode also raised over $2.2 million for the Autism Fund. So good for you, Jon, and as far as the new host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah, is concerned, don't you dare ruin this. Our viral story tonight is a teen from Missouri who took her senior photo at a Taco Bell. Brittany Creek shared this picture on Twitter and got 18,000 favorites and 9,000 retweets, which must mean that whether conscious or not, this is very well constructed viral material. And by that I mean that she's a pretty girl in front of a Taco Bell, so she will get all the men's clicks. Nevertheless, she did win the internet, and that deserves a clap. And that was the show for this week. You've just been loaded with trending information from The Grid. I'm Christian Sokole.
Meet Dandelion. She is a 14-week-old, 20-pound lab mix who is pure puppy love, mischief, and love. She has a lot of energy and will keep your day exciting. Dandelion really loves affection, kids, toys, fetch, and did we mention affection? She has the perfect balance between love and fun. Dandelion is crate trained and is working on her potty training. She'll make an amazing addition to any dog-loving family.
Please contact Pet Rescue at www.ny-petrescue.org if you're interested in adopting this wonderful little guy.
Thanks for tuning in to The Local Live. As always, it's been a pleasure to keep you updated with your community news.
And don't forget to check out our website for more news and community programming at www.lmc-tv.org. And for internships and volunteer opportunities, send your emails to thelocallive@lmc-tv.org. We love hearing from you.
That's the news for today. I'm Marcella Milder.
And I'm Kat Galliano, and see you next week.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.